a daddy Mac. Dan's 30 years got our way, trading life and markets every day. Rusty's chained to the mines, digging deep day by day. But when Option Omega releases new features, he's free to come out and play option. Omega, you're trading home, where every move makes you feel less alone.
Morning, fellas. How you guys doing?
Morning.
Morning, guys. Morning.
Great.
Happy Monday to you.
Happy Monday, everybody.
Happy Monday, happy markets.
That's right.
They say happy wife, happy life, happy markets, happy parkets. I don't know.
That's right.
Anyway,
Yeah.
Markets up big. Hope you guys are doing good. Let's jump into the rundown this morning. We got two things very important. We got the Art of the Deal College Edition and the Art of the Deal Tariff Edition. So I don't know if you guys know this, but in Knoxville, Tennessee, we had a national emergency this weekend.
National emergency.
Our quarterback, who was highly, highly touted, got us to the playoffs last year, made national news because last day of spring practice, he held out. He didn't show up, and his people said, listen, he's got a guaranteed $2 million. He needs a guaranteed $4 million. This 19-year-old quarterback needs a guaranteed $4 million, or he's taking his talents to the transfer portal.
To somewhere else.
Yeah. Steven, happy markets, happy pockets. You say it that way. I like that. Boston edition. So the coach, one could say, did the right thing and said, well, we're not paying you a dime. We don't negotiate with terrorists. And so you
say terrorists or tariffs?
Right.
Yes.
So he's probably going to be entering the transfer portal. I'm hoping that, we have a new QB there on the left. He's older, but he has some eligibility. That's my hope, because we need someone who, like Nico, knows the art of the deal. So Dan, what are your Panera people hearing on the street? Because I feel like this is front page news for them.
On a very crucial day, because this would have been, I could have got you some good information. I didn't go to Panera today. I slept in a little bit. I apologize. But that would have been, I'm sure it would have been very good. My first take on this is his father and his agents or whoever and Nico, I don't think they read the book. If they would have read the book, they would have showed up at practice.
Yep.
Dotted their I's, crossed their T's, showed up for the spring big game the next day, and then maybe had lunch, talked to them, see what they could do. But to abruptly go in there and just kind of no show didn't look really good. Part of the room, you read, who knows what to believe with all the different things you read, but it sounds like the camp, again, stressing they did not read the book, The Art of the Deal. Within the last couple months, they were already contacting some schools like Oregon. And I read somewhere that the coach of Oregon called up the coach of Tennessee and said, hey, what's going on? Your guy's been calling me and seeing if they could kind of drum up more interest. So I think hopefully they, learn from this. I'm not sure obviously he's of age, but you don't know if his dad and who are the back. There's a lot of, we called him in Chicago when there was like a great basketball player or whatever. He'd be going around town with his posse. That was like,
I've got one. I'm familiar. I have a posse. I know.
Troy's got his posse. So but it seems like as Paul Finbaum, the SEC prognosticator, said, that with this going, if he has a bad year because he's losing a lot of guys, the Knoxville will be patient with him because he did the right thing.
No.
He bought another year.
For sure. This is how you get another year at UT is you do the right thing. I mean, listen, I agree. He hasn't read The Art of the Deal, because if he had read The Art of the Deal, rather than asking his employer, for more money,
that's right.
he would have went to every bank in Knoxville. He would have over leveraged on loans. He probably would have built some apartment buildings on the strip.
Right. Yeah.
He would have done it the way he was supposed to do it. Yeah. So anyway, that's the college edition. Yeah. Tariff edition. There was news this weekend that the tariff is over for anything that counts. Am I reading that right, Matt? How do you read that?
I think we're still in the public negotiation phase. So from what I understand, there were several pivots, and I honestly tried to disconnect and spent my Saturday focused on smoking 10 pounds of pork rather than trying to keep up with the tariffs.
Wow, that's more impressive.
It turned out really good, but nobody wants to hear about it. It's fine.
10 pounds of pork.
Now with pork, do you use a pipe, or is that something that you inject?
So I smoke it on a gas grill, but again, we'll have to do a separate cigar lounge about that, and I can go through my technique. I've honed it.
Okay, that's fair. All right. Well, so the markets are happy today. I mean, ES is, at the time I'm looking at it here, up 85. So whatever he said, like, the markets liked it. The question, of course, with vol where it's at, is vol going to stay bid enough for us to have any trades that are, can you, I know Matt last week had one of the best mechanical trading, automated trading weeks of his life on DCs. I mean, DCs, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong. You put a DC on last week, you're up 10% in like 5 minutes.
I mean, again, I would say that last fall around, the DCs are complicated. They're advanced trades. They have more Greeks than a Euro party, and I said Euro party, not Euro party, but it kind of works.
Same thing.
Last fall, they went through an incredibly bad spell, and I have back tested the better part of a decade, and not things that had never happened before, but close. And there were times when it was like, I think I had one where I had a DC that literally made it to the end and was like 5 points away from the strike or something. And it was at break even, like just last fall, things that you didn't see happen much. And then last week, there were times I would put on a multi-day DC and it would be up 30% within a couple hours. Like, it was just a really unique environment. The combination of the VIX and the movement. It's again revisiting the other part of the spectrum last fall where they were absolutely dog water, and now it was steak and lobster last week. So we'll see. I mean, VIX has come down, but we're at a VIX of, let's see what we're at this morning. Oh wow, low 30s. So I mean, it's still come down, but like low 30s. VIX 9-day is probably going to be up, I would think, maybe a little higher than VIX, maybe not, but 30 VIX is still higher than we normally are. That's for sure. I think the question a lot of people have is this done? I mean, if we open up at 80 points, we'll be in the 5,400, 5,500 range. I mean, that's certainly lower than we were a couple months ago. It's not that much lower than we were most of last year. It's higher than we were a lot of last year. So it's like we had a crash, and yet is this done? Like I think there's just still a lot of uncertainty in the market, and a VIX of 30 is, I mean, I would categorize that as still a little bit of it's still a little bit of fear, still taking it seriously.
Absolutely fear. And I think with the double calendars, I think it's something to put in the book for the grandchildren, some of the mixed month spreads. But again, the only way I think you can understand any kind of mixed month spreads, whether it be diagonals, double calendars, there's multitudes of them, double diagonals. You have to write, to really get inside the belly of the whale, you have to look at the volatilities of the shorts and longs when you put them on. And then when you get them off, then it makes much more sense. There's only two elements here. There's only on any trade. It's not that difficult. It's really price and vol. And if you look at people look at, to me, the lazy man's approach to understanding mixed month spreads is whatever VIX does. If VIX goes up, well, we should make money on these things. They're long. VIX goes up. It doesn't work that way, because I've seen times where VIX goes up and you lose money, or you don't gain it, because again, people think VIX represents your shorts in your calendar.
That's right.
And your
it does
long.
not.
It does not.
It
and
does
so
not.
if you write them down, you'll clearly see, okay, look what my longs did, or look what my shorts did. And I think that's the way to really understand it. I mean, I still think, it's that, to me, the double calendars or mixed month spreads had the perfect storm, right? You get wide, break evens from here to Missouri, from Tennessee to Missouri, on your graph, but then you have the volatility and working in such a way that you're not going to lose any money. So when you have break evens that can cover 3% moves or whatever, you're in really good shape. I think they'll continue to work here. I mean, to me, the only thing for sure I would bet on in the next week, we're still going to get 120-point candles. Not every day. This is a 4-day week because of Good Friday.
Yeah, we won't on Friday. Market won't do much Friday.
No, Friday it'll be calm. But I think from what the president is doing, and it's just strictly deal making. But he's not the only one looking at this. China's looking at this and saying, okay, so this guy's showing showing how he's going to be playing this thing. So, I mean, the good thing for those who like more range, but I mean, I think, entering some of these mixed month spreads, when you, on a day like today, especially when you get this dippage, right? On a low vol day, because as we've seen, if we go back down 100 points, I still think VIX could pop 3-4 points.
Oh yeah.
Right. Which would really help those mixed month spreads. So I think, but you got to be careful. I think you got to pick your spots on the mixed month spreads. I think on a rally, when they hit the vol pretty good, might be a time for entry. And I know you have that on some of the back testing, right? That you have entering some of the mixed month spreads when the volatility.
I mean, people set up their back tests.
Oh yeah, different.
An infinite number of ways. That's certainly one of the ways you can do it, is based on the intraday VIX.
Yeah, and that's what I think it is. Looking at these, look at the back test, but look at we're in an unusual situation here, and maybe tailored a little bit, because VIX is gonna drop 5 points right at the opening, and I mean that's all. I don't see with what's on the table now to come into the 20s right away. I don't know. It just doesn't.
I don't think we're going to come into the 20s right away, because I think vol is weird in the sense that the VIX spot price is weird in the sense that you're not going to get a lot of vol reduction when we're going up 1.5% a day.
That's right.
It's counterintuitive.
Yeah, because it's still movement, just like in 2020.
Yeah, you actually need a day. You need like a week where we just don't do anything, and that'll absolutely crush VIX.
That's right. Speed. I mean, I remember in I think it was 2017. I don't know why that comes to mind. We were, and here's the other thing. People think you can't have movement when VIX is low. Like I remember, I think it was 2017. We had VIX maybe near 10, right? And I just remember in December, the market was going up like a what's that? Roller coaster goes up. Mark was going up, vol was staying down, and then all of a sudden you start going up fast, right? That's the key. How fast SPX goes up. That's going to be the thing, because the faster it goes up, the higher the VIX is going to be. The slower, like Troy said, the slower it goes, if we kind of meander, they'll crush it, right? But I don't see how that can happen. There's too much uncertainty, right? I mean, can your average, Troy, if I put you separate in a room and Matt separate in a room and say, tell me where we're at with the tariffs, I don't know if we would get the same. I don't know.
I I think that's a feature, not a bug. Like, I think, again, not a prognosticator, but watching from the sidelines, it seems like what happened was at a high level, there was not just the equity sell-off. We've talked a little bit about the bond markets, but the bond markets are, as Troy pointed out, a much bigger animal. And the bond markets, are not a world of zero DTE and day trading and earnings reports. They measure a longer time frame.
Yeah.
And I think it's kind of becoming part of the news that original pivot of the days are running together. I think on Wednesday or Thursday, whenever we had that 10% pump, was the consensus is that it seems like some people talked to Trump and were like, hey, don't look at that. I mean, the equity market is the equity market, but like, we can't have bonds acting this way. Like that's kind of a cornerstone foundational thing. And with the amount of foreign bonds that not just China, but Japan owns, and these other countries own, there's been a lot more news articles on U.S. Treasuries than I've seen in a long time.
Yeah.
So for sure.
Yeah, I mean, so the journey continues. I think the bonds are going to speak for themselves. The hard thing with mixed into all this is inflation. I mean, I think that's why I think it's so difficult for Trump to do some of this stuff right now. Is if we were at 0% interest rates, which is what he wants, he would feel no pressure to do any of this. But
0%.
the Fed's not going to save him.
Yeah,
the Fed's not going to participate in the political means of negotiation because inflation is right on the edge.
Inflation is still on the edge, and like this is a dumb example, but it's the example everybody uses, which is eggs, which has some other unrelated events why eggs are $7 for a dozen. But gas is still, what is Brent, like 65, mid 60s? Gas is still $3 a gallon. Like that's cheaper than it has been. That's not really cheap in a lot of parts of the country. And the grocery bills, I mean, my personal indicator is what you can buy Diet Coke for at Kroger. So to give you an update on that indicator, the lowest I've ever seen is $3 for a 12 pack. And this is with the deals, right? You have to clip the horrible digital coupon, but whatever. And this weekend, it was $6 for a 12 pack. And I still bought some because $6 for a 12 pack is lower than it has been. Wow. And that's still pretty expensive. So the personal inflation gauge, of course, the DCI, the Diet Coke indicator, the DCIK, the Diet Coke indicator at Kroger, would agree that inflation is still very much on the edge. And groceries, gas, these things get the lion's share of the consumer's attention because they buy them every day in the US. But you look at some of the bigger ticket items like what's going on in the car market or real estate, and then have an even longer conversation. I think you're right, Troy. I think it's very much on the edge, which is a complicating factor when you have interest rates where they are, when you have tariffs, which tariffs are certainly have an effect on inflation, especially in the short term.
Bean, don't get me started on my indicator, the horse steroids. The price of horse steroids right now are
through the roof.
Yeah. I mean, for the price I pay for my gains, it's unbelievable. But anyway, listen,
gotta do it though.
I thought you were going to mention something like maybe a hamburger or something. He brings up horse steroids. How do you?
Well, you can't have the hamburgers.
It's a clear transition.
For sure.
It's a clear transition.
Speaking of transitions, I want to show you a bad test that's not a much better test, but something that I think is interesting. So what I'd like to do this week is, we always talk about it, Option Mega. It's really dangerous to look at small data sets, small time frames, and build a whole portfolio of trading around that. But I did think it would be interesting, now that we are a little out of the woods, but very much still in the woods. I would like to maybe dissect this week, if you guys are up for it, what some different trades could have been for the past week. So it's a chance to kind of look at hedging a little bit. Look at, again, it's not to just play, because you can never repeat what just happened. Mm-hmm. And the next time will be different, just like COVID crash, just like all these things. But kind of something that we could look at. to say, okay, for the next time we have a crazy VIX move, what are some options that I have? Pun intended.
Love it, Troy.
Okay.
Love it.
Yeah. So I'm going to show you a test real quick. It's a terrible test. Terrible test.
Okay.
This is SPY. And I'm going to tell you why it's SPY. Because SPX margin for this trade is not doable for most people. Right. So what this is this is since SPX daily. So going back to 2022, this is you buy a put that is 20 points. So in SPY, that's the equivalent of 200 points away in SPX, roughly. And you buy a 7-day put. And then you sell 20 points below that a put that's 30 days. And because it's so far past that I'm all over the place. Past that put that expires in 7 days, time-wise, you're receiving a credit for this.
That's right. So this is a put diagonal.
Yeah, and this is an important thing because I've heard people get confused. I've gotten confused in the past. It's totally normal to get confused with these type of trades. This is a weird trade, and I want to talk about why it's a weird trade. This is a credit you're receiving, and so you think, well, what does profit look like on that? People ask us all the time questions in OO Discord about profit targets and things like that. How does it work? So normally, on a spread that you were selling for $2, look at this top one, $2.20 credit, to take 10% profit would be $22, right? Pretty straightforward math. But here's the thing that's weird about this type of trade. The profit, how this will go is it'll go down to zero, just like any credit spread, and then it will start going back up again in credit received.
Fascinating.
So it gets really confused. So for instance, you can sell a 220. Well, actually look below. This is actually a good example. You sold this for a 53-cent credit, and yet you took a profit target of $3.73.
Yeah.
How's that possible? Well, it's possible because the way the spread trades, because gamma.
That's right.
Right. So this is there's a lot of more caveats to this. Basically, this in your brokerage would be considered naked. Why would this be considered naked in your brokerage? Why is your brokerage looking at this? And we should have asked our friend. We had an interview with Peter Klink last Friday. We're going to be putting out. We should ask him next time we talk to him about this.
Well, I kind of did at the end, and what he basically said. I mean, that's the way the regulate. If you're in a portfolio margin account, this trade, what you're talking about, is fine and dandy, and isn't going to cost you much at all. But if you do it in a Reg T, the typical account or retirement, it's going to cost you 3 of your horses, 4 kids,
that's right,
and a couple mules, right? It's going to cost a lot because of the regulations. Because I think they look at it and say, okay, wait, this Yahoo who's doing this trade, right? Whoever the retail trader is, they're going to leave their long put. I'm just guessing. They're going to let it expire worthless, and they're going to be short these 30-day naked puts, right? Or however a compliance department thinks. But these are just the rules, right? But in terms of, this is a long gamma trade, right?
Yeah.
This is a trade that if you have a big movement, you can make some money on it. It's going to be, so if we look at the Greeks, it's going to be, right, Troy, it's going to be long gamma. So you should be, I'm trying to absorb the diagonal part of this because that will determine.
Yeah, that's right.
You're starting out long or short delta. I'm not.
You're going to be long gamma, depending on where. I mean, I don't know precisely with this one. Your goal with this, depending on how you set it up, is you kind of, in some ways, want to have it delta neutral, and I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
Or maybe 1 to 2 per spread or something like that. But I did this trade. So this was my hedge. I'm just going to be very upfront. But I didn't do it in SPY, and I didn't do it to this specification. It was a little bit different.
Sure, same idea, directionally the same.
This is the same idea. And the reason I wanted to set it up a little bit delta neutral is I wanted to make money from this if we went up too. That's why I like this idea, is that theoretically you could receive that full credit if we went in the direction you don't want it to go, if we went far enough.
Yeah.
Because it's long gamma. So the Greeks are, your long gamma, it's going to flip. Your gamma's going to flip to some extent, depending on where you're at in the trade, which gets complicated. That's why it can go from a credit to a higher credit. It's going to be heavily, this is the downside of this trade, that you are going to be heavily penalized with theta. You are not long theta. You have a lot of theta decay every day in this trade. So the profit target is like a straddle in the sense that it is working against you every day.
Right.
It's
like you want you have to have movement.
You have to have movement. 2, and this is the thing with the Vega. The Vega is super complicated. I would not suggest anybody doing this. You need to model it out and look at some modeling software. And even then, I wouldn't trust the modeling software too much because you are really, really, really long Vega on the front end and really, really short Vega on the back end. And those two things don't always play nice together. A 7-day Vega and a 30-day IV are not the same thing. And you really need them to move in tandem. That's really like what you need is for them to move in tandem.
Which most of the time they don't.
And most of the time they don't. So you have a lot going against you. Why would you do this? I'll show you why real quick.
Yeah.
So this is a one. I think I've got 3. I kept 3 on here. This is the main one I want to look at, this bottom row. And let me go full screen so you guys can see this. You put this on at any time that Wednesday morning, Liberation Day, and you receive a credit, right? And what this test is doing is you're saying, because it's moving against me every day, I want to get out of this trade as soon as possible, right? And so you set the profit target 100%, close 25% of the allocation, 300% close 25, 500% close 25, 1,000% close 25. Now, I will tell you that the trade probably went up closer to 3,000%, but you could play around with this. This is just idea generation. Why would a hedge like this work for this past move? That's the discussion for today, and then we'll call it here in a couple minutes. Yeah. Why would this work, guys?
I think there's some comments from the chat. I think there's actually some people that are figuring out why it would do well with a big down move because of the relationship between IV in the shorter term versus the longer term.
Yes. So shout out Tom.
Shout out to the chat.
Shout out to the chat. That front, this is why I did it, personally speaking. I had 2 things in mind. I did not want to lose a crap ton of money if the market went up 300 points. Which again, remember, we were already kind of positioned to go up 300 points.
Yeah, from technicals, you mean just
yeah. We were already down, I think, 400 points on the year. Yeah, who cares about points, but just for the ease of it.
Yeah, we're down 10%. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were kind of set up for a rally if everything resolved. So I didn't want to lose money on that. But I also, and you can go back and check the tapes. We're not a showboating show. This isn't the showboat show. But you can check the tapes. And my viewpoint was that I thought vol was going to go up after Wednesday, not down.
Indeed it did, Troy. Indeed it did.
Yes. So my service is $19 a month. If you can find it, I don't give you the website. Let me know if you find it,
but nothing was. You knew that the probabilities of it getting total resolved on something as complicated as that were 0 in 24 hours.
Yeah,
right?
And it could. I mean, the market. I mean, this is why I don't trust myself. The news this weekend does not make me think the market should be up 90 today. Yeah. So I knew at least
agree
the market could go up 300. on nothing. In fact, when he first started talking, before he said what he was going to do, the market was up 100 points. Like the market wants to go up.
Yeah.
On the Liberation Day, you mean?
On Liberation Day.
Yeah.
You're right,
It
the
did.
market does
Yeah.
want to. Yeah.
And so I did this because so this is a hedge where I knew if it went up 300 points, I wouldn't lose money. I could get out, worst case, break even was my thought process.
Yeah.
2, I did think that the front month vol was underpriced. And so I bought the front month vol and sold the back month vol. And you needed a big movement. But I figured if they were underpriced, we would get a big movement because they're going to have to price really quickly to address what he's saying. And that's what happened. So again, this is just an idea. There are 4 million simpler ideas that we can look at this week. Not all 4 million, but we can look at some other ones. But this is what I'd say. If you guys have a hedge, go back and test the last week. If you feel comfortable sending it to me, you can DM me on Discord in our Option Mega Discord. DM Matt. We'd love to put it on there and show you. We'll show you some other ones.
Yeah. And one thing, people are worried about their tests being shared publicly. Obviously, that's up to the user. If you want to share a concept, you can change a couple of the parameters to where it's different enough that you feel comfortable. That's an option. So feel free to reach out to either me or Troy, and if you want us to chop it up, we'll chop it up. Who knows? We might even get a better version.
Yeah,
the community's brain power.
Can I add one thing on what Matt said? Just for
Sure.
teaching for 20 or 30 or whatever it was, mentoring. When I used to teach at the CBOE for years, I would do a webinar and tell not that I knew that much, but everything I knew about a particular strategy, I would put it on there. People would say, Dan, why did you give away the secret sauce? Why did you tell everything? Because I said, this is a tough business. And you know what? I also know that in our community, when you're teaching, sharing is better because other people can make it better, right? That kind of working. And I never was concerned about giving people, too much information on something because it's a difficult business. And the other thing is, I know human nature. People aren't going to stick with something long enough. People say, well, Dan, if everybody gets good at risk management, won't that dry up the range bound business? I said, that'll never happen. Human nature, people will not. That's why I'm excited about mechanized or bot type mechanical
automation,
trading, because it protects people from themselves, right? They can put something on and it can go.
Well, here's kind of a final thought about that too, because people are private about their strategies, and that's totally respectable. One of the nice things about automation and options trading, though, is there are so many variables you can change, and if people are worried about sharing an idea or a test and then 20 people making an automated trade and messing up the bid and ask, there's a lot of variables that you can switch, deltas, minute of entry, and a lot of times even just a small change in the variables will allay people's fears. So
2 things with that. I would like to have the final word with that too. We all want the final word.
The final.
I'll say this
to
I'll say this to everybody. I'll say it to ourselves till the day I die. I've had these conversations before. If showing your trade and 20 more people doing it breaks your trade, it's a terrible trade.
Absolutely.
A terrible trade. And that's a wisdom nugget that you should really think about. 2, like all wisdom, the most wise things are completely open because those who have ears to hear will hear it, and those who don't have ears to hear won't hear it. Wisdom doesn't hide. Wisdom just says things, and you either hear it or don't hear it. So I will say, to that point, these type of trades, when you're doing it, we could talk about. We could give you alpha every day. We could just throw alpha your way. Like this is just no beta, just pure money, just pure alpha. And as long as we don't have a Lambo in our video or on our screenshots, we won't get the audience that we could get, and that's completely fine with us. And so that's the view. The thing is, to Matt's point, and Dan's point, Dan can literally give away all his strategies and no one would do, so few people would stick to it and have discipline with it that it doesn't matter because we live in a world where people want Lambos. And so it's about learning the craft more than getting a Lambo.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it.
So with that being said, enough preaching to you. I'll be back with more messages. Listen, it's Holy Week. Some things might slip through this week, guys. I'm just telling you. Some things might slip through. All right.
That's good.
Have a great day. We'll talk tomorrow, and we will have more ideas we'll want to talk about. So
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you guys soon.